kick on the way. It's got plenty of distance. It is no good. He missed the 43-yard field goal.
And that missed field goal means that Montana State is now 2-0 in Big Sky play and 4-1 overall. Welcome to the Bobcat Sports Report, everyone. I'm A.J. Donatoni. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll try to make sense of a 64-61 overtime win over the Sacramento State Hornets. Head coach Rob Ash, Bobcat game day analyst Mike Callahan, and quarterback Denarius McGee will all join us as they try to break down what was an epic 125-point outburst on Saturday. So stick around. We'll be right back with the Bobcat Sports Report. 3 minutes of highlights will not do Montana State, Sacramento State justice, but we'll try our best. First quarter right away, Denarius McGee finds Kyle Beggar in the back of the end zone. MSU went up 7-0, and that was obviously just the beginning. Coming right back, Jeff Fleming going to hit Chase Dieter in the end zone. That tied the game up. Actually, Sacramento State took a 7-6 lead because MSU missed that first extra point. Later on, McGee going deep. Julius Lloyd with the catch, and then it's Lorenzo Davis. He's going to punch it in from there. MSU extends the lead, and then later on, after a field goal made it 16-7 Cats, it's McGee to Lloyd once again, perfectly in stride. Nobody's going to touch him down the seam. A long touchdown reception, his second of the day, 23-7 Cats. And then later, the big plays just keep on coming. It's not Lorenzo Davis, but it's C.J. Palmer. Straight up the gut, untouched, goes all the way. MSU extends the lead 30-7. And they still weren't done in the first half. Davis gets the call here from just outside the 1, and he trots in 37-10 going into the locker room, and that was because the Hornets were able to punch one in there right at the end. So as we move to the second half, Sacramento State came out on fire. Fleming with a pump fake going over the top, and it's Morris Norris wide open. He takes in the his first of 3. There's number 2, also down the seam. The Cats are having trouble covering guys down the middle all day. But later on, McGee with a nice throw to Tanner Bleskin, who makes a nice one-handed catch, and then Palmer punches it in from there. But Sacramento State just kept coming. Fleming, once again, gonna find Norris. His third touchdown of the day. Sac State extends the lead, but the Cats would force overtime, 61-61. In OT, the Cats got the ball first. Jason Cunningham knocks a field goal in, 64-61. So then, with a chance to tie Sacramento State, no, wide left. And that's it. The Cats remain undefeated in the Big Sky, now 2-0, 64-61 overtime win over the Hornets. So in the end, it resembled more of a basketball score than a football score. But 64-61, the Cats win in overtime in what could only be described as really an epic game. Coach, have you ever been involved in a game like this, quite with the scoring that we had?
Not like this, AJ. I've had some games in the 50s, of course. I think every coach has from time to time. But the thing that was tough about this one was we had such a big lead, 37-10 at the half. You just have to give Sac State credit. They came out, got the touchdown, got the recovery on the onside kick, and another quick touchdown, and they were back in the game. And give them credit, but give our guys credit, too, for withstanding all that and never giving up and winning at the end.
There's a lot to talk about, obviously, from a game like this, and I'm sure I'll forget a few things. But we'll start at the beginning. You guys had 2 quick interceptions. You were able to turn those into points right away. You went into the locker room with a 27-point lead. You know, how were we able to get off to such a good start against the Hornets?
Well, I think you mentioned it. The big thing was the turnovers. You know, they put the ball on the ground, we intercepted it, and, you know, all of a sudden we had some opportunities to get away. And then we hit some big plays. I mean, we had the big run, a couple big touchdowns. They were playing their safeties really close to the line, and that was stopping the running game to a certain extent. But when we did pop the run through, there was nobody at the backup level there to tackle him. And then when we had the play action pass, the safeties came up, we got behind them a couple times. So they kind of played more of a high-risk defense there in the first half. Second half, they kept blitzing, but they mixed it up a little bit more and you know, threw us off a little bit early in the third quarter. But we finally found some ways to get back at them again.
Well, speaking of that second half, those first 10 minutes or so, 28 points scored by Sacramento State almost right out of the gate. They had a surprise onside kick. What was it about their offense and what they came out with that just completely took you guys off guard?
Well, first of all, I think we got a little flat at halftime, and that's on me as a coach. I got to get that fixed. I mean, we were ahead comfortably, but it's hot here, and our guys were drained. We had played really hard with a lot of emotion, and at halftime, we were pretty proud of what we had done, I think, and we were tired, and we came out in the second half thinking that Sac State would go away, but they didn't. And then Sac State had those plays and got themselves going, and they had a momentum going for a while that was tough for us to stop. And the other thing that happens, AJ, in a game, when a quarterback gets hot, it's like any other athlete. It's like a, like a basketball guy shooting threes or a baseball guy that's on a hot hitting streak. I mean, he just feels like everything's going to be right, and he connects, and that's what happened. Fleming got hot, their play callers got hot, and they just got on a roll that we had trouble stopping.
It just seems like you and them, no matter who had the ball, just you kind of assumed they were going to go down and score with a big play over the top or two. Interesting decision you guys made, an onside kick yourself. It didn't work out like it did for the Hornets. Why the decision to onside kick it in that scenario?
Well, it was getting into an offensive game, and I thought an extra possession for us would do the same thing that the extra possession did for them. Unfortunately, it didn't work like it always worked in practice. We've had great success with that play in practice. We were looking at it all day long, and I really thought it was something that would be available for us to be successful. Anytime we wanted to use it in the game, I had total confidence in it. But obviously it didn't work out, and ended up being a bad call because they had a short field there. If we get it there, it changes things around. It's like a turnover almost, and we would have had the ball again to try to get a bigger lead.
So it went back and forth for a while. You guys were able to come back in the dying seconds there and tie it up. Then it went to overtime. You guys were able to kick the field goal as you took first possession. Sac State comes out with one of the best field goal kickers in the conference. Wide left. What was the thought that ran through your head when that kick missed?
Oh, AJ, right before it was put down to kick, before he had missed it, I was saying to myself, in fact, over the headset, I said, I wouldn't mind if this game was over right here. I knew he was a good kicker. I really expected him to make it. But something it just felt to me like maybe it was time for this game to end. I mean, both teams had played so hard. I just felt like our guys made enough stops at the end that maybe we deserved a break finally to pull this one out. And it worked our way. I'm very thankful, happy for our guys that it worked out that way, obviously.
There's a lot of happy people in Bozeman and around Montana tonight. A 64-61 win. That's head coach Rob Ash. We'll bring him back a little bit later. We'll wrap up this one, and we will talk about next week against Portland State. When we come back on the Bobcat Sports Report, Bobcat game day analyst Mike Callahan will help us try to make some extra sense of the 64-61 win. So stay right here.
Are you feeling it?
Welcome back to the Bobcat Sports Report, everyone. 64-61, an overtime win for Montana State. So naturally, in a game like this, there's plenty of numbers to break down. So let's take a look at the game statistics right now after the Cats' 3-point overtime win. And the first thing that jumps out at you, obviously, total yards. Both teams went over 600 yards in total offense today. 646 for the Cats to 624 for the Hornets. Just an offensive outburst. Very little defense, obviously, in that second half. First downs were about even. Time of possession about even. Third down conversions, the Cats converted over 50%, while Sacramento State was only 4 for 11. And check out the red zone. 9 for 10 combined between the two teams. They were able to convert when they got inside the 20. The Cats scored all 6 times when they got in there. And Montana State goes on to win by a final score of 64-61, knocking off the Hornets. Now joining us here on the Bobcat Sports Report is Bobcat game day analyst Mike Callahan. He had the pleasure to call all 60 minutes plus the overtime period. Mike, first of all, have you ever seen a game like this? Just the craziness that ensued on Saturday?
No, I really haven't. I've flashed back to some games where I remember back in '84 we went 4 overtimes with Reno, but I've never seen a game with such drastic momentum shifts. I mean, it really, I made the comment during the game that, boy, it looked like they switched jerseys at halftime.
That's about right. I mean, Sacramento State was down 27 coming into the second half, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, they're up by a point. How do you explain their quick start out of the gate?
Well, I think momentum is a big part of it. I think MSU, it's natural to have a letdown. You didn't get stopped once in the first half. I mean, every single offensive possession you came out with points. So I think you let down. It's hot. You're on the road. I think the national tendency is you get a little bit satisfied. And, boy, they let down just enough, and Sac State put the pedal to the metal.
I'll say in that second half, it just seemed like everybody, no matter who had the ball, you just assumed they were going to go down and score. But Montana State was able to come back down 7, tie it up, send it to overtime. What was the key to the Bobcats being able to answer the Hornets all the time in the second half?
Well, I think that with the exception of just 2 3-and-outs, I think in the third quarter, is that neither offense really struggled moving the football. So I think when they got their opportunities to get out there, remember at the beginning of the third quarter, they gave up 14 points before they'd seen the ball. So I don't think that it was really that they did continue to compete and score, but I think that both those offenses were going to be, if we were still playing, they'd still be scoring.
And finally, Mike, just sum up what this win means. It's the first road win in the conference for the Cats. They're 2-0 now in the Big Sky. In the big picture, what does a win today mean?
Well, I think it means a lot, and I think that it will be forgotten. Everything that really happened here in the course of the season will be forgotten, and this win will be a W. And all the craziness won't really be a part of it. But I think the reason it's so big, obviously in a game like this, a lot of things went right, a lot of things went wrong. But the reason it's so big is because it wasn't a loss. If they come out on the wrong end of this thing, it's devastating. It haunts them all throughout the conference race. And you know that you had one that you let get away.
And thankfully for the Bobcats, they didn't let it get away in the end. They win in overtime after the missed field goal from Sacramento State. Mike Callahan, Bobcat Game Day, thanks for joining us. We're going to take a quick break on the Bobcat Sports Report. When we come back, we will talk to quarterback Denarius McGee and get his take on just how the Cats were able to pull this one out. So don't go anywhere.
Biking is my form of meditation.
Welcome back to the Bobcat Sports Report. MSU again, a 64-61 overtime win over Sacramento State, and here is the quarterback for the Bobcats, Denarius McGee. First of all, we'll get to your individual performance in a second, Denarius, but first, have you ever been a part of a game quite like this?
No, sir, not at all. This was a hard-fought game. That was a great team that we played against. And I got just the whole time, and we came out with the win.
What? I mean, you guys got to such a hot start in this game. They couldn't stop you. You guys were going down the field and scoring at will. How were you able to get off to such a good start against the Hornets?
We just stayed. I mean, we just did what we do, and tried to execute every play that we had, and I think that was the difference. Just us executing all the plays that we had, and just going out there and having fun and playing ball.
It looked like you and Julius were having a big day together. It looks like you were finding him all over the place. Is that just one of those things that happens in the flow of the game, that a guy like Julius Lloyd just finds his way to get open?
Yes, it is. I was just scrambling around. He just found a way to get open, and he made great plays. He's a great player, and we've been practicing all summer and all spring on just me scrambling it out and him just getting open, and it paid off today.
And in that second half, they got off to such a hot start. They recovered an onside kick. It just seemed like everything was falling apart for you guys. What was going through your head, like on the sideline, when you watched the defense give up touchdown after touchdown?
It was the same thing as if they were stopping them 3 and out. I was just keeping my composure, make sure I just worry about the offense and getting the ball into the end zone, because I don't have time to worry about what they do. And they came up big for us. And they'll correct whatever mistakes they had, like we had mistakes, and we'll move on to the next week.
I could talk about a lot of things. I can go a lot of directions with this interview and talk about something specific, but 61-54 was the score. You guys were down. How were you able to lead the team down the field for that game-tying score?
Well, we preached it all the time. In order to be a championship team, you have to have tough times. So we just tried to stay composed and execute down the stretch.
And I know it might be hard to sum up right now after the last 4 hours and everything that's happened, but how does it feel to be 2-0 in the Big Sky and get that first road conference win under your belt?
Oh, it feels great. It's just another win under our belt. We have to move on to the next week and get another win next week. And we have to only focus on the game next week, as we did last week for this game.
And that will be at home against Portland State. Denarius McGee, 385 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks.
And now switching from Denarius McGee to the guys that play in front of him, that would be the offensive line. The last couple weeks, these guys have stepped up their game despite all these injuries and illnesses that have hindered them, and it's all because of a philosophy that Coach Jason McIndoe teaches them.
Adversity, overcome adversity. We talk about it all the time.
Overcoming adversity. It's a common theme for sports, whether it's on the field or off. In this particular case last week, the Cats had their backs to the wall on the offensive line. Just list them off. Conrad Burbank and Ben Tuana'u injured. Leo Davis and Killian Fitzpatrick out with the flu. But that's what O-line coach Jason McIndoe preaches, the ability to fill in when needed.
I tell my guys, doesn't matter if they're full scholarship, partial scholarship, no scholarship guys. At some point in time, when their number's called, they're going to be ready. And the guys who stepped in, answered the bell, and did a great job.
Square track to the right.
With a patchwork line that included guys playing out of their normal positions, the offense was able to move the ball downfield almost all day against the Eagles. The players agree it's the result of what Coach Mack does to prepare his unit for anything.
He doesn't teach us with blinders on and just how to play one position. You have to know everything. And what's nice about our system is every single technique that we practice, it's universal for every position.
Coach Mack makes us know everything. You have to know every position. If you're a center, you have to know center and guard. If you're a tackle, you have to know guard and tackle. And apparently I had to know all 5 positions on Saturday.
Person moved from left to right tackle against Eastern, and Terrian was forced to relocate from center to guard while Sean Sampson filled in. That was because another reserve, Andrew Verlonic, went down with an injury himself during the game. But because of what McIndoe teaches, the line never panics.
Come off the line of scrimmage. Okay, when I come up to level 2, I'm going to drop the tennis ball down. I'm going to forklift up like this, and I'm going to drive my feet.
I teach concepts, not plays. I put all of our plays into a conceptual idea. And so then, therefore, our steps, our aiming points, our assignments is all based on a concept. So no matter what the defense is, no matter if I'm playing right tackle, right guard, center, it's all conceptual.
Right.
One good game doesn't define a season, though, so the makeshift line for MSU has a lot of work ahead of it. But with Coach Mack and Captain Person leading the way, there's enough confidence there to ride out the storm before health returns.
What's great about this team is everybody's picking up on those concepts so well, and they're really adjusting and responding to adversity.
Your best coaches are your best teachers, and I'm always trying to become a better teacher. How do I teach my guys better? How can I get them to understand better? Because the game of football is a game of adjustments. There's no making excuses. I just told my guys, I made a comment. I said, winners don't make excuses. They don't have time. They're too busy finding solutions.
When we come back on the Bobcat Sports Report, we will have our final thoughts from Coach Ash after the 64-61 win over Sacramento State, and we'll look ahead to Portland State. So come back right after this. And welcome back to the Bobcat Sports Report. One last talk with head coach Rob Ash about this Sacramento State win, overtime win, in the end just by a field goal, but 125 points combined. Just wrap up what it means, Coach, to be 2-0 in the Big Sky now, get that first road win in the conference under your belt amongst everything else that's happened at Sacramento.
AJ, that is so huge. You're so right. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was 3-2 or 64-61. It's a W for us on the road against a good Sac State team that's going to win a lot of games in the conference. Then when the season's over and when the year's over and we look back, it's just going to be a W. It won't say all these yards and it won't say how we blew a 27-point lead. It's a W. That's so huge for our football team because we got ourselves in position with a good win last week, the win over Eastern Washington, and then we just couldn't give it back this next week. We just couldn't do that and keep this season with the same momentum that we generated last week. So now we were able to get over this bump in the road, and I think it's going to do wonders for our team. It's going to prove to our team that we can withstand adversity, that we can go win a tough, hard-fought game, and we're not afraid to play a close game. So there's just a ton of positives coming out of this.
And certainly now 4-1 on the season, and you guys get to go back home next week. It's going to be against Portland State. It's the homecoming game. What is it about homecoming? Is there anything different in terms of an atmosphere about a game like that?
Sometimes I think homecoming's not as good for the players because a lot of people come back that they know, a lot of past players, and sometimes it can be a little distracting. But the positive thing about this homecoming is that there's a lot of buzz at Montana State right now about our football program, about athletics, about the things that we're doing for athletics. Everything is on a positive, and I think there'll be a great crowd. I'm anticipating another sellout, another great game day experience for all of our students and fans, and that will be tremendously exciting for everybody.
And, Coach, it should be a very good game to look forward to. It's also your 200th win, so guess what? We have a little surprise for you.
Look at that. You're welcome. On behalf of Max Media and the production crew here, we wanted to congratulate you on your 200th game. And I have to say, this almost ended up thrown on the ground because I thought we had jinxed you. So congratulations. We're so excited for you.
Thank you, Linda. That is very special. Not many guys have lived long enough to win 200 games, so I'm thankful my health has stayed good and I've been able to keep my job because there's been a lot of young men that have put a lot of hard work in for this to come true. It's a neat day. Thanks. That's really special.
Well, Coach, certainly a great day for you and for Montana State football. I'd shake your hand, but you're kind of, you have some eating to do. So once again, head coach Rob Ash of the Montana State Bobcats, 64-61. The Cats take down Sacramento State in overtime. That's going to do it for us here on the Bobcat Sports Report. Join us next week. We'll break down Portland State, the third game of the Big Sky season. So until then, I'm AJ Donatoni for the Bobcat Sports Report.
Last week, Montana State had to come from behind to beat Sac State in overtime 64-61, one of the highest scoring games in Big Sky history. Today, the Bobcats host Portland State and the Pistol Offense. It's next on Bobcat Game Day. Bozeman, this is Bobcat Game Day. It is homecoming in Bozeman. The alumni have returned as Montana State plays host to the Portland State Vikings. Hi again, everyone. I'm Chris Byers along with Mike Callahan. And Mike, 2 weeks into the Big Sky Conference season, so far, so good for Montana State.
Yeah, a wild finish last week, 64-61 at Sac State, but on the road and got the win.
All right, Portland State comes in, minus Jerry Glanville and Mouse Davis. The run and shoot is gone. Jerry Glanville is gone. First-year head coach and a brand-new offense for this Portland State team.
Yeah, first-year head coach Nigel Burton called his quarterback, Connor Cavanaugh, a field general with great leadership qualities. But more importantly, as you said, he fits into this pistol offense because he's very effective running the ball as well as throwing it.